Good morning. We're learning as is chusr for Shlema Filan Chaya Basarach, and for as a aliyah for the Shama of Meir ben Elazar. We're on Daf Samach Amud Aleph, uh, about about 2/3 of the way down. Amar of Yehuda. It's about 11 lines up from where the narrow lines end. Amar of Yehuda. Shar Kresason of Parsason. A shar has a big stomach and big hooves. Rav Reisha, it has a large head. Rav Gnufte, it has a large tail. The Chilufa B'chamra, and the donkey, all of these characteristics are the opposite. It has a narrow stomach and it has a narrow hooves, and its tail and its head are narrow. The Mainaf Gamina, what difference does it make what their characteristics are? Lamekachu Memker. If someone bought either one of these animals and its characteristics are, I guess, significantly different from this, that you bought a donkey with wide hooves, that's not a good donkey, and you can say it's a mekach tais. B'amar Yehuda, shar shehikar Adam Arishan, karen achas hayalei b'metzcha. The shar that the Adam Arishan brought, as Chazal say that when he woke up in the morning, he was very surprised that the world hadn't ended, so he brought a carbon. So that was a shar. It only had one horn. Shenema v'atitev l'Hashem mishar bar par makrin mafres. David HaMelech says the Rebbeinu Shalom loves my Tehillim more than a shar with horns and with feet, with hooves. Makrin tarti mashal. In fact, what are you talking about? What are you saying? What do you see from there was only one Karen? Makrin is two kronim, two horns. Amnachon mi karen ksiv. The ksiv is Karen with one corn. Ramavuda, Shashek of Adam Arishon, kind of koidmois leparsoisa. When it was created, its horns came out before its hooves. Shenema batita l'Hashem mishar par makrin mafris. Like we said, makrin b'reisha v'hadam mafris. This pasuk first mentions the horn and then afterwards the hooves. And say bishu and levi, dam bishu and levi. Kol ma'aser b'reisha b'kem masa nivru. All ma'aser b'reishas were created standing. The animals were not created, so to speak, shaped from one atom and then built up, but they were created a fully standing, fully mature animal. But Dait and Nivru, they were created with their das, with whatever intentions they had. But Tzivyonim Nivru, with their full beauty. Shenema v'yichlu ha'shamayim v'aretz v'chol tzavam, al tikri tzavam el Tzivyonim, with their full beauty, which includes all the other characteristics that we're saying that they were born with. Bar Papa. The Baruch Shalom should be, the covet Hashem should last forever. The Baruch Shalom will be happy with his creations. Pasuk zeh Sar Olam Amru B'Shasha Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Mineu B'ilanis. The pasuk says, "V'Yemer Elokim Tachi Aretz Desha Esei Mazriya Zera Eitz Pri Oiseh Pri L'Minoi." Should make every should make the world should create a covering, and then the eitz pri oiseh pri l'minoi, every tree to its kind. Shazar by al aretz yichein. So b'shash amar Baruch Hu l'mineu b'ilanis, when the Rebbeinu Shalom told the trees they should be made according to their kind, meaning that each tree should be the same kind as its parent, that nasu d'shoim kal v'chayim ba'atzman, the covering of the earth, the grasses, made a kal v'chayim. In return, shal Kadosh Baruch Hu ba'avuvia lama amal l'minei b'ilanis. The Rebbeinu Shalom wanted us all to grow wild, each one creating new varieties. Why would it say l'minei? Well, kal v'chayim, and that's not just a memotzino, it's a kavachar. Ma ilonish ain't dark and lots of sparvovia. Ilonis, they're typically not a conglomeration. They're not a whole riot of different types because each tree is it's its own entity. It's a big organism, and it stands on its own. So it normally wouldn't be a mixture of different kinds of trees. So it wouldn't be necessary to say limineu. Amagosh bochu limineu. You should have groves of oak trees and groves of apple trees. Anu alachas kama vikama. Certainly by us, the Rebbeinu Shalom intends for us to. The Rosh Hashanah had to say it by the Ilana. Certainly, we should apply that to ourselves. Miat kol echad ve'echad yatzel lemina. So therefore, every type of grass, every type of brush, all the things on the surface of the earth, all took it upon themselves to do according to their kind. Pasach Sara Olam ve'Amar. The Rebbeinu Shalom said, "Yichvayed Hashem la'olam yismach Hashem b'masav." The Rebbeinu Shalom is happy, is misameach with his creations. Boy Ravina. Hikav shnei d'shayim zel zeh. If someone did a klayim of two types of non-edible grasses or plants, the din of klayim is specifically related to grains and vegetables, things that are edible. Does it apply to these as well? According to him, that it's the Torah, when the Torah said lemineu, it did not apply to the plants; it just applied to the trees. So it was never a tzivui that they should be separate. So even to like tzibul lemineu loy mechayev, I don't. But even the hiskim gayu command of tzibul lemineu done. Since the Rebbeinu Shalom in the end said that they all sprouted liminoi, the Rebbeinu Shalom was masking that was the right thing to do, and therefore there's a din klayim, take it. The Gemara says it remains a take. Torah says you should make two celestial bodies, the sun and the moon. Then it says there's a large one, the sun, and a small one, the moon. It's possible to have two kings equal owners of the crown. How can I be equal with the sun? You should go and reduce yourself. The moon said, since I said a good time, therefore I'm the one who has to get punished to become small. He said, okay, listen, I'll give you a consolation prize, that the moon will be found. Sometimes you see the moon on the sky at night and during the day, but you never see the sun at night. Amalei Ma'iruvuse, Ma'iruvuse, the Shraga B'tiara. Said to him, what kind of consolation prize is that? What use is a candle by day? You stand outside of the candle, it doesn't provide any light. So having a moon by day doesn't console me. Mayahani, Amallah, Zil Limineu, Zil Limnu B'cha Yisrael, Yamim V'shanim. Said, no, don't worry. The Yidden are going to use the moon to count the days and the years. They're going to use the moon for their calculations of when the Yom Tovim are. Amalei Yumanami Efshad Manu Be Tkufase. But you also need the sun to figure out the seasons. Right? We always justify the lunar calendar ultimately with the solar calendar. We don't keep losing 11 days a year. Eventually we have to add them back. The Torah says we also have to do Yom L'Shanim. We have to get the Shanim right as well. So he said, the Rebbeinu Shalom said, Zil Likru Tzadikim B'Shmecha. We're going to call Tzadikim like you. The moon is called Hama'ara Katan, and we call Tzadikim Katanim. Yaakov HaKatan, Shmuel HaKatan. You don't find, I guess we also find Hagadol, but we'll leave that on the side. But the tzaddikim are called the Ketanim, David HaKatan. Chazidlim Kamitzvah Daita. The Rebbe Shalom saw that with all the arguments, the moon was not okay. Amagash Baruch Heviu Kapara Alai Shmiati Esayera said, I'm going to take the kapara. I unfairly reduced the moon. Behind the Amr Shimon Lakish Manishtana Sar Shal Rish Chodesh Shenema by Lashem. What is the sar that's brought on Rish Chodesh? Say Lashem. Amash Baruch saw there. Seir Zeh Ye Kapara Al Shem Miatasi Esayereach. That means that the Rish Chodesh is where we most directly use the moon. Every month we dictate the Rish Chodesh based on the moon, and that's the place where the Rebbe Shalom says should bring a carbon Lashem, meaning as a kapara for the Rebbe Shalom for being the mayat the moon. Very obviously a very theologically difficult concept, but the Rebbe Shalom should need a carbon to be mechaper on him. Ravasi Rami Siv. The Torah says on the third day, the earth brought out its vegetation on Tuesday. The Mali Shabbos. There's an Erev Shabbos that before the earth had produced its vegetation. How could that be? The Shayim were there and ready to burst forth. But it waited until Adam Rishon came and was mispal on them. And then the Kshamim came with Samchu, and they sprouted. The Moshe wants the tefillos of tzaddikim. So therefore, he waits for that to bring forth the plants. He had a garden, Shadebe Bizrani. He put in its seeds, Veloy Samayach, and it didn't sprout. Bo Rachmi, Davin, also Mitra, it's Samayach. The rain came and it sprouted. Amar Hainu de Ravasi. This is an example of Ravasi. Amru Chanan Barava. Hashasua, Beria B'fneatza. The pasuk says, Achazele techelu mimale hagero, mafrise aparsha. Hashua sagamo v'sarnoves v'sashofen. It said not you can't eat from these are the ones that are ruminants that chew their cud. It includes the camel and the arnova and the shofen, which I think we said are different kinds of rabbits, and the shasua. He says the shasua is its own min, which we're not familiar with. Sheyesh la shnei gavim v'shnei shedres. It has two backs and two spines. Was Moshe Rabbeinu a kanigi, a ballisteri, which were different kind of hunters? So this is a raya that the Torah is not min hashamayim, that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to identify, the Torah was able to identify exactly which animals are ruminants but don't have split feet. Vaistais that it's divinely inspired. Because Moshe Rabbeinu certainly wouldn't have known them. Parsha, these words, blistery and kanigi, are very specific words, terms of art, that they refer to different types of hunters. So when you say over this halacha, this chazal, should write it as written, but you have to explain what those words are because it's not the words that are normally used. Chamishas, the pasuk says, Chameshas sarne plishtim ha'azasi. There were 5 types of plishtim: ha'azasi, ha'ashdoididi, ha'ashkaloini, ha'gasi, ha'groini, ha'ivim. Amar chamishach v'chashav sisa. You counted up. We said there's going to be 5 lords of the plishtim, and then you said 6. Amar v'yechanan, arunki shalahen chamisha. only 5 of them were the real lords, the Arunki. Amr Chizler Taklifa Baravina, Kasav Arunki Ba'agadaticha, Uparsha. Again, Arunki is another fancy word that people won't recognize. You should use it, but you have to explain it. Upligadura. This is this shita that we just said that there are only 5 Arunki. So Machlaikas on Rab. Amarav, he says a different teretz. Even Mitemimbo, the even, which was the 6th one listed, they weren't really Plishtim, they were really from Taman. Tanya Namihachi, even Mitemimbo. Balam Alikar Shmon, even she Ivusayas Mekaiman. They hated their place. They did badly by the place that they came from by abandoning it and coming to Palestine. That they came to the Plishtim, join the Plishtim to worship many avodah zarah. That whoever saw them would tremble with fear, which is what the word avis means. Amr Yosef, Islu Shitzri Dari Shini L'chol Chad V'chad. They all have 16 rows of teeth. They were very fearsome types of people. They were like sharks. These even. Amr Shimon Lakish, Habe Mikrois Sheruuyim Lisra. Behinhein Gufei Torah. Very strange way for the Torah, for the Gemara to say it. It says there are many psukim that should be burnt. What he means to say by that they appear as if they should be burnt. They seem like things that are not necessary to say. But actually, they're important things to learn. The pasuk says, these even that sat in Chatzerim, the Kaftarim came and ejected them. They took them over. My nafkala chamina. What do I have to know about these wild tribes of Evim that lived in Eretz Yisrael before the Yidden came? So come on, the Shvi Avi Melech Lavram in Tishaka Li Ulanini Ulanefti. The Avram made a bris with Avimelech that Avram's children were not going to attack his children and his grandchildren. Amagash Baruch Leisu Kaftorim Lifku Me'ivim. The Hainu Plishtim. Let the Kaftorim come and kick out the Evim, who are the Plishtim, and they are actually grandchildren of Avimelech. Leis Yisrael Lifku Me'Kaftorim. And then the Yidden will have the right to be able to attack the Kaftorim. There was no treaty with the Kaftorim. Ki Yotzeb Davat Aimer Ki Cheshvan Ir Tzichain Melech HaAmoiri He. Cheshvan Ir Tzichain. Cheshvan was the ear of Sichon, the Melech HaAmoiri. Who Nilcham Melech Moav? He took it from Melech Moav. My nafkalach. I mean, why do I care that Cheshvan took it from Moav? Damal Gashbach Yisrael. Al Teitzer Es Moav. The Bershom told the Yidden, don't attack Moav. Have Sichon come and take it from Moav, and then the Yidden will have the right to come and take it from Sichon. Behind the Amr of Papa, Ammon and Moav tiaru b'Sichon. Ammon and Moav that were both not allowed to be attacked by Yisrael, by Sichon taking over their property, and made it susceptible and made it available for the Yidden to capture. Pasuk says, Tzidonim yikru l'cherman shiryan. The Tzidonim call the Har Cherman, they call it shiryan. Hana, Shnir v'shiryan mehari Eretz Yisrael. The places Shnir and Shiryan were two of the names of mounds in Eretz Yisrael. Menamet shekol echad ve'echad ve'umas ha'olam halachu banalei krach gadol la'atzmai. They all built themselves great cities. And they called them after the name of Eretz Yisrael. So Herman really had two cities that were built, Shnir and Shiryan, were built on two sides of the mountain. And they called those cities after the Shnir and Shiryan, after the other mountains in Eretz Yisrael. That's why they called Herman. They didn't mean they called the actual mountain Herman, but they had their own cities there. That's so you see that the Umas Ha'olam want to name Their cities after the mountains in Eretz Yisrael, it's valuable to everyone. And it says that Yosef, when they had the Rav, when he took over, he sent all the Mitzrayim to different cities, Ma'inaf Gamina, the Likr Lachav Zulvasa, in order that when the Yidden were going to be Avadim and then sent around, actually before that, when his brothers would come to, because of their Rav, they would come down to Mitzrayim, they wouldn't be called refugees. No one had their own place, and everyone would be refugees. Said in the Mishnah that the simonim of the oif were not said. We didn't have specific simonim of the oif. Beloi, is that true? Vatanya, Nesher. The Torah says that the Torah does not have a list. First of all, the Torah does not specifically say simonim of oif, even though we're going to soon say simonim, but it's not said clearly in the Torah. What the Torah does have is a list of 24 types of birds that are not kosher. And currently, just as the background, we don't know exactly what those 24 are. Therefore, we don't know what a bird is, or if we don't know that a bird is bedafka kosher bird, we know that chickens are kosher, and ducks are kosher, and geese are kosher, and the birds that we used in the Beis Hamikdash, the turtle doves and the pigeons, those are kosher. But other than the ones that we know specifically are kosher, we're not allowed to use them. I think turkey is somewhat controversial at some point, whether it was kosher or not. But it seems we seem to eat it. I'm not sure why, because it doesn't taste good, but it seems to be a kosher bird. But the rule is that that's all in current practice because we're not certain. But what the Torah says, it gives a list of 24 non-kosher birds, and in theory, anything other than those are kosher. So, fact the Gemara. Why does our Mishnah say that we don't have any rules? We don't have simanim. Tanya nesher. The Torah says a nesher, which we always translate as an eagle, but it seems it's not so simple that it's actually an eagle. But we learn from that. Ma nesher miyuchad she'ein lo etzba. It doesn't have that extra leg that in the back that the kosher birds have, Yisera. The zefek, it doesn't have a crop. The ein kurkubanoi niklaf, its gizzard is not peeled. B'dairis ba'eichel, and it claws and eats. Tame, it's tame. Torah said it's tame, and it has these characteristics. Al kolku yoytze by tame. Similarly, any bird that's like it is going to be tame. Tyron, the Torah says tyron are one of the birds that are brought as a carbon, so therefore we know that it's certainly a kosher bird, right? Which says mimashki Yisrael has to be things that are edible to Yidden. Sheishlan etzba Yisera, it does have the extra finger, the zef or extra leg. The zefik, it has a crop. A kukwan niklaf, its gizzard is peeled. And darsav oichlin, it doesn't tear and eat. The hiron and its tar. Akol kiyoytze ben tarin. So we see a brayso that does say there are simonim that tells you what's kosher and what's non-kosher. No, this explanation was added on midivrei seifrim, but it's not brought in the Torah. Taner of Chia. Oif haba b'simn echad tar. Chia says that oif that has a single one of the kosher simonim, we said 4 simonim. If it has even one of those simonim, it's tar. Lefisha ein doimen l'nesher. So it's not similar to the nesher. Nesher less luklal hudulay techel. Ha'ikadis lechad techel. So we learn that only the nesher that doesn't have any of them you can't eat, but any bird that has even one of the simonim you could eat. In fact, the marvel of me tyron. Why do we learn from the nesher? Let's learn the other way from the tyron. Ma tyron the ikka kulu arba afachanami ad ikka kulu arba. Maybe it has to be like the tyron, the tar that has all 4 simonim. In order to be kosher, to be certain it's kosher, it has to have all 4 simonim. In Kain Shar Oifis Tamei in the Kasar Rahman Alamli. Why did the Torah have to list the exhaustive list of all the non-kosher animals? The fact that the Torah listed them, it's coming to tell you only those are tamei, but not those that have any siman of kashrus. Psak the Gemara, b'neilif minayu, right? See, none of those have all four simanim, so let's learn that any that has even one siman of kashrus is going to be, none of them have all four simonic kashrus. So let's learn out that anything has even one. Sak Gemara, b'neilif minayu, let's learn from all those birds that the Torah listed as non-kosher. Mahasam tlasa v'lechinan af kol tlasa v'lenechel. So let's learn out that if it only has three, right? It says Nasha, which has four, but if it only has three, there's a lot of them that have only three, even besides the Nasha, which has all four non-kosher, but there are a lot of them that have three, and you can eat al kol tlasav lenechel. Maybe anything that has even three kosher simanim shouldn't be echel. The kosher and trey, and certainly if it only has two or one. So Gemara imkein erev the kasar rachman alamali. Erev has Erev has only two simane kashrus. So from the fact that the Torah wrote that, it's coming to tell you that if it has three simane kashrus, it's certainly going to be kosher. If something that has three simanim you can't eat, why would the Torah have to tell you an Erev that only has two? Dr. Gemara, the leilif me'ayrev mahasam trei loy av kol trei loy. Let's learn from the Erev that just like the Erev only has two simani, it has two simani kashrus and you can't eat it. Anything that only has two you can't eat. In came paras vaznia the kasrachan alamli. The paras vaznia only have that has three simanim I'm sorry, it has three simane of trephus. It has only one siman of kashrus. If you're going to say that something that has two simane of kashrus you could eat, why would the Torah have to tell you the paras vaznia that only has one? So tomorrow v'nigma paras vaznia. So let's learn out from the paras vaznia that if it only has one, that you can't eat it. In Kain Nesha the kasher rachman alami. What does there have to write? The Nesha which has zero simane kashrus. Has islay chad lo yachlin the less like klal mibaya. Al Nesha will say klal hud lo yachechel. Al islay chad achol. So let's learn out from the Nesha that doesn't have any. That's what you can't eat. But if it has one simon, you could eat, and that's taka where we end up. As long as it has any simon of kashrus. By the time of the Gasar Rachman and Nasha, Lavachi Avamina Nail if we process. You know what? Let's stop over here. This is just going to go on, and I didn't get all the way to the end, so stop over here. Continue.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Again tomorrow.
Yeah, cool.
Have a good day.